must have been 2 years ago now, maybe a little more, when I first discovered the company Decware and their Zen amp. I was surfing through some YouTube videos and I came across reviews of this and I thought, can this really be true? Can it be that good? So I started investigating a little bit further, and I found that Steve Deckard, the CEO of Decware and the founder, he was really into tube amplifier design, and he had worked out ways of reducing the numbers of components down to the absolute bare minimum. I think the count was 9 in the Zen amplifier. And this reminded me of the tube amplifiers, the set amplifier designs from the 1950s, which I used to find in secondhand shops in old magazines and stuff when I was growing up as a lad. And I was fascinated by this, thinking, well, could it be really any good? But judging by the massive long waiting list that he had, I thought, well, there must be something in it. And they were so reasonably priced. I think they were less than $1,000 at the time. And all American components. I thought, well, what could be better? Lifetime guarantee. So anyway, I didn't have the patience to join the list on the list of the Decware list. So I hunted around and eventually found a secondhand Zen triode amp, and grabbed this thing and started trying it out. It was shortly after I made the video about how loud is 1 watt, which was basically just explaining that maybe we don't need quite as much power as we thought. And I tried the Zen with the Sibelius loudspeakers, and it was marvelous. It was magical. It was everything that everybody said it was. But it was only 2.3 watts per channel, if I remember correctly, maybe even a little bit less. But that meant I could play music pretty loud, because if you have left and right channel going together, a pair of Sibelius loudspeakers will make 90 decibels at 1 watt, 87 each, 90 in the room. So in fact, with 2 watts, you know, you're basically making 93 dB, which is pretty loud. However, I do like to play music quite loud sometimes, and you know, drum solos and big orchestral works when there's a crash of timpani and brass, and if you've got a really good uncompressed dynamic recording, then you know you're going to flip very quickly up and peak way above. And although when the Zen was peaking it was still sounding nice, I knew I couldn't really recommend it for Sibelius customers. And in fact, I don't have the Zen anymore today, because one of our customers came to the listening room to try out some amplifiers, saw the Zen in the corner, and I said, well, it's not for sale. And he said, but could I hear it anyway? Maybe I could order one. And he actually fell in love with this thing, and he really, really liked it. And he actually only listened at very, very quiet volumes. So I said, okay, that's fine. Off you go with that. But the question still remained, how could I get a Decware amp that sounded as good, but had a bit more oomph to it? So I set up a couple of calls with Steve Deckard, and we got chatting, and he is brilliant, because what I realize about him is he's a really good listener, and he asks really good questions. And he was giving me a lot of time. I was very grateful. And I was explaining exactly what I wanted to achieve. And I think the secret of Decware's success is that people aren't selling them on. They're buying them and keeping them. And that's why their waiting list is so damn long. And the reason for it is, in the conversation, he's looking for a connection. If you have the privilege to ever speak with him, you'll find that he's not talking about technology all the time. He's much more interested in the human experience of listening to music, of what makes something musical. This is what he's really focused on. And he and I made that connection very quickly. And he told me the story about when he was finding himself listening to music into the early hours of the morning. And he noticed that around 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, things seemed to sound better. Now, he wasn't sure whether it was the frame of mind or whatever, but he put it down to the electricity. Maybe the electricity supply is smoother or purer at that time. And that inspired him to add these 2 tubes to his amplifiers to actually smooth out the electricity going to the feeder tube. Anyway, cut a long story short, he suggested to me that the Torii would be perfect. Fully dual mono, the Torii V, and it will have the same characteristic as the Zen. The bass will be a little bit more controlled, not so exaggerated, because if truth be known, the Zen does have a little bit of an exaggerated bass, which the Sibelius really don't need. And he said, and he advised me to go with the KT66s because he said he thought that this would give me everything I needed. But I bought the standard EL34s as well at the same time, and I went for the full option with the balanced in and the normal line in, because I knew that in this listening room I'd be trying it with all different kinds of preamps and whatever. And so I paid my deposit. I went for the top of the range upgrades, and waited and waited. And the great thing is, you get to know his the two women who work for him. Very friendly, very just lovely people. And ever so often you get a little email saying, Harley, just want to let you know that your parts have all come in now. We're assembling this and we do that. And over a period of time, this journey came. And then one day it was a very polite email asking me to pay the balance because they're about to ship. And it's really strange because from the moment you place the order and the time it takes to deliver, your life has moved on. You're in a different place, and it's sort of like waking up and saying, oh, it's really happening. It's wow. And anyway, so it arrived and it came in this wonderful Pelican case, and I set it all up. And it was fantastic. I mean, look at it. I mean, it reminds me of a science experiment kit that you get, when I was about sort of 6 years old, with electrical kit, and you could plug in components, and there's an old dial on the front that looks like it came out of a Spitfire aircraft, and these old chicken head volume controls. I mean, I chose these black ones because you had a different selection. I just think they're hilarious and funny. And you can choose everything because it's all handmade by him and the team in America. You could just choose it all. But the sound was incredible. With the EL34s, the standard EL34s, the only way I can explain it is by showing you this book. This book is called Magic 3D, Discover the Revolutionary World of Photographic Free Viewing by Tom Johnston. Now, my brother Damien, the photographer, bought me this book for Christmas many, many years ago. And basically what you do is you stare at the page, and you stare at this picture until you virtually go cross-eyed and you end up with one dot in the middle. And then by magic, the image jumps into 3D. It took me ages to get the trick, but once you get it, it's quite easy. And this is exactly what his amp did. During the call, Steve would refer to CCM. Oh, was it? No, CCE, sorry. What am I saying? CCE, he used to say. He said, it's really CCE technology. And I thought, well, what is this CCE technology? I didn't want to be stupid, but I said to him, forgive me, Steve, but what is this CCE? And he said, it's Christmas comes early. It was the experience he had at 2 o'clock in the morning of things becoming holographic. And this is exactly what this is like. It just becomes holographic. In fact, in our listening room, it was almost a little bit too much, because sometimes there were higher frequencies from triangles in the symphony orchestra sounding like they were floating around the ceiling. And you're sort of thinking, this is two-channel, like what the hell is going on? Anyway, I tried it also with the KT66s. And although it is not as holographic, which actually in some ways is good because it was a bit too much, to be honest, I tried it with the KT66s and the bass was phenomenal. It became so detailed and it got the drive cones so tight that the detail in the bass, when you're listening to, you know, We've Got Requests, Oscar Peterson trio, that the bowing of the double bass, you can hear the rosin on the bow, you can feel that bridge vibrating onto the face of the double bass and the air pushing out. You've got all of that through the Sibelius loudspeakers from this amp. And the interesting thing is, I mean, it looks like a power station, so I thought this is going to get incredibly hot, but actually these guys are not getting that hot. These ones are, but the others, he's set it up so the tubes aren't really being driven really hard, so everything's tempered, so they should last for decades. And what I really like about Decware is the fact that although everything is handmade, they're very reasonably priced. Now, this isn't cheap. This is about $3,500, but with all the other extras, you know, it quickly gets to $4,500–5,000. But the little Zen, you know, is as I say, it's around about $1,000. You'll have to check the website. But the point is that he's designing it to last forever. And because he's not overdriving the tubes, you can use so many different kinds of tube. Now, I've actually, I have to be careful with this, bought a set of these beautiful blue Sophia electric EL34s because people were raving about them on the internet, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Hopefully I can get a picture of one. They're gorgeous looking. And yes, they sounded great. They sounded good. They're quite expensive for the set. And they did sound really nice. But to be honest with you, on a day-to-day basis, I think the 66s are perfect in this amp, which is really strange because I don't really like this KT66 much. I've never had a tube amplifier with KT6 tubes that I've ever liked. And yet, here it is. And what I was trying to say earlier about pricing is if you go to his website, I think they're bringing out their own EL34 tubes now. And, you know, they're like $76 a pair, a matched pair. I mean, his prices are so reasonable. And that's why he's got a long waiting list. Because if you think about how much time it would take to make this, how long it would take to build, yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, let's be fair. You might not want that in your living room, but I think it's great, and it's so practical because, you know, the things like you can just switch them across here. You've got your fuses on the outside should anything go, and he says if anything ever goes wrong with it, you've got a lifetime guarantee. If anything goes wrong with it, we'll fix it. And he only does that because he knows it well won't. I mean, obviously the tubes aren't guaranteed for life, but for the rest the kit won't, because he's designed it in a way that everything is working within its norm, and as long as the quality of the components is consistent, he'll have nothing to worry about. It's also extremely quiet. I'm running it at the moment as we talk, but there's no hum or anything coming from it. There's a tiny hum if you put your ear right next to the loudspeaker, but you certainly can't hear it. I can't hear it from here. Just a wonderful amplifier which you can really play with, and the biasing is really simple. You don't actually have to do anything, but you can check it all on this little dial here, which is very easy to do. There's not much more I can say about it, to be honest. This is an amplifier which I intend to keep forever because it's so incredible. Now, it's no secret that I've been trying to build and get my own amplifier, Pearl Acoustics amplifier, for more than 2 years, nearly 3 years now. We were working with one designer, but it didn't quite come together. And then we started working with a new team, and we've really got something. And we're hoping that this amplifier will be coming out on the market, but it's not going to be anywhere near this price. I would love it to be this price. It's going to be way more expensive because of the components and everything. Whether it will sound better, that we've got to see. But this guy is tremendous, and it's got plenty of power. There used to be an expression from Rolls-Royce that when people asked how much power has the engine got, they just used to say enough. Now, this is classed at 20 watts, but I can absolutely assure you it's enough. The way it drives these Sibelius loudspeakers is fantastic. But of course, it's not the only amplifier in the world, and this is definitely not for everyone. Steve did tell me a really neat trick and said instead of leaving this on full, because I'm running normally from a preamp, instead of leaving this on full and then bringing the preamp up, he said drop it down. If you've got a lot of voltage on the preamp, you can drop it down and then drive the input stage really, really hard, and you'll get an even better sound. And there's another thing, these 6N1P input tubes, if you just replace these ones, you can change the sonic character of the amplifier without spending a lot of money. Now, I haven't bothered, because why would I? It's so damn good. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So the Torii V, it's really a 10 out of 10 amplifier for me from a pure audio sound perspective. Lovely amplifier and a lovely team and a lovely person to do business with, and I highly recommend them. If you want to hear it, we've got this in the listening room here in Belgium, along with the other amplifiers that we have here. You're always welcome. I know it's a long way to travel for a lot of people, but this is something which I like very much. And another little thing, when you open the beautiful case, it comes in this really solid pelican case, they're called. And you lift off the foam, you lift up the lid, and then you lift up the foam, and then you see the base of this thing, and it says made for Harley Lovegrove, and there's a date and there's a number on it, and it's written by hand, and it's so nice to see that. It's such a lovely touch that the soul of this company, I could completely align with it. I don't want to talk about the highs and the lows and the mids and all the rest of it. Other people have done all that already, and they can do it way better than I can. All I can say is when I'm listening to music with this, yeah, it just takes me to that other place, and that's why it's called a Torii. The Torii is, I guess it's a Japanese, it's like a gateway, according to the website, the Decware website, to a temple, and it's a kind of way of leaving one space and coming into another, and moving into a higher level of understanding and experience. And this is exactly what this monster, this machine does. It takes you to another place, and that's what it's designed to do. The Zen Torii MK5 amplifier from Decware. Yeah, it's I'm in love. It's just fantastic. It's what I would love to have designed and built, and I'm just so glad that Steve's done it. So I hope you found this little talk interesting, and if you have been, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the music.